All right. 3, 2. All right. Today is May 7th. I am here talking about a great organization in Atlanta, an organization that a lot of people are starting to know. And it's one of the few organizations that still has a lot of room to grow, even though it's very, very popular already. We're going to be talking about what the organization is about, how it got started. The organization in question is Soccer in the Streets. And for anyone who does not know, Atlanta is very much a soccer town. And this organization has been a really great job at making Atlanta a soccer town, not just for the people who currently live here now, but for all of the young children who are coming up and being exposed to soccer for the first time. And so, with that said, I want to make sure that everyone gives a big shout out to Phil from Soccer in the Streets. And then Phil, if you could let people know what Soccer in the Streets is doing.
Good morning, everyone. Good to be here. Soccer in the Streets is a youth development organization. We use sport for good, so we work with kids from low-income communities, and our goal is to affect their lives positively with soccer and leadership programs.
Okay. And how long has Soccer in the Streets been going on?
A good while. It seems we've been the best kept secret for many years. So we were formed in 1989.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it really surprises a lot of people. We've been doing what we've been doing a long time. We get the comment a lot, your timing's great because of what's happened here with soccer in the past few years. But when we were trying to do this back when I got involved in the late 90s, no one wanted to listen to us, certainly in African American communities, about soccer. So in some ways we had really bad timing. We just got very good at what we do, and now we're sort of ready to execute.
Right. And so I want to ask about Soccer in the Streets in particular, which is one thing I wanted to know is that you guys started back in 1989. I didn't know that. Which was the other thing was, how did you guys even last from 89 to where we are right now? That seems like 30 years. And in the case of Atlanta, that seems like 2 or 3 lifetimes.
Yeah, I mean, it is a long time. I think the core proposition of what we do has not changed. I think just the scale of how we do it is developed. So the organization started with a lady down in Jonesboro who wanted to work with a group of kids there in an apartment complex local to where she lived. And she saw what they were doing. She thought soccer would be a good connection for them. She had no background in soccer herself. So she started with that, and it got really popular and it took off. And I think the first inflection point for the organization came, this was in the early 90s. So then the World Cup came to the US in 94, and Soccer in the Streets was almost the only gig in town that actually used soccer and social impact. So it got a bump then, and I think that's what kickstarted it. And then the proposition has just been the same, working with kids from underserved communities, giving them a positive way to change their lives. And it went along for many years, just sort of in that low gear momentum forward. And then that gradually changed and had a big step change about 5 years ago when the MLS decided to put a team in.
Right. And I want to ask in particular, because some things I think a lot of people, the moment Atlanta United was founded and then their first inaugural season, most people assume that Soccer in the Streets happened because Atlanta United was there, and not, that you guys have been existing for decades before.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really how it played out at all. I mean, we were here a long time before them. I mean, I think when Atlanta United decided to come to market here, they were they and still are very aware of the importance of grassroots efforts. I know that Darren Neal spent a lot of time building the fan base from a grassroots level, just going to pubs and watching games and getting to know fans. So I think that DNA in their organization then filtered through to helping and wanting to help the more underserved communities around soccer in the city. And they became a very strong partner then. We were actually a partner of Blank Foundation before Atlanta United came through. We were funded through the the football team, ironically, the American football team, who provided us program support for many years.
Okay. And one of the things I wanted to ask about Soccer in the Streets is that you guys are also known, like you guys have multiple waves of just your organization, but there is a lot of people who associate Soccer in the Streets with MARTA Station. Can you explain how that happened?
Yeah, sure. So the biggest issue that our kids face to get access to the sport is lack of transportation. It's actually a bigger barrier in a lot of ways than financial barriers. Many of our kids don't leave the communities they're in. We have kids that live a mile or so from downtown and never been downtown. So many of the solutions around soccer as a sport to get them plugged in is to try and fit them into the country club soccer model that's so big here, the big monolithic youth sports model that gets thousands of kids in a club. And they're scholarshiped into those, and that's great, but then they can never get there to play. So about 4 years ago, I lose track of time now, one of our then board members, Sanjay Patel, came back from a trip in London. He saw some mini soccer fields at close to railway stations in England and thought this would be a great idea to take to MARTA. And he did that, and after a lot of knocking on doors and a lot of persistence, he persuaded MARTA to pilot the idea in 5 points. And that's the same time that Atlanta United saw the idea, loved it, and decided to support that pilot. And so the premise is to connect kids around the city via public transportation and connect them with soccer. So we'll have 10 mini soccer clubs at 10 MARTA stations. They'll play together in their own league, which is called the League of Stations. All the clubs have their own identities. They're pretty small, very community-based, couple of hundred kids each. And that's going well. The proof point was 5 points, and then we opened West End and then East Point. And it's a program that's growing really, really well. But it's more than just building fields. It's really creating the infrastructure and the program for the kids to plug into soccer, and the leadership component as well.
Right. And one of the things I want to ask you though is that right now everyone is social distancing. Has that had any effect on the Soccer in the Streets, in particular, like the clubs that you were talking about?
Yeah, I mean, we're a social sport. I mean, soccer's dependent on being in close proximity to others. So we got hit big with that. We shut down our programs. We take the lead from USU Soccer and Georgia Soccer. So when they close things down, we did as well. And we will keep closed until their direction changes. So what became apparent real quickly was, what is the need of the community? So we went out and talked to our families, and it was very clear that the two biggest needs that they had were around education, isolation for the kids, and around food. So very quickly, it was a real good refresher for us about what our mission is, because our mission is not really around soccer. It's really to promote and better the mental well-being and the healthy well-being of kids from low-income communities. So we pivoted to that. We've got 13 staff. We've got 38 contract coaches. We really want to keep that team together and keep that salary covered. So we came up with the goal of educating online 200 kids and then providing 1,000 hot meals to our networks of families as well. We started Project Homework, which is completely new to us. We've never done anything like this before. We cobbled together very quickly with some help with another Soccer for Good partner in DC who helped us build the curriculum. And we put together a 10-week, 8-week program that's delivered via phone or via online. And we do creative reading, writing, drawing with the kids. So we started that. We're in week 5 of that. And then on the on the food side of things, yeah, we're big believers in turning to the community where we are. So we turned to one of our partners in East Point, Oz Pizza, and Chris Wiley down there was one of the two businesses that provided the land for the Station Soccer location down there that opened recently. So we set up a food distribution program there. It runs once a week, and we provide free pizza to kids around East Point. And so I think the final twist to that was also we're like, well, how do we deploy our coaches as well further? So we started working with an organisation called the West Side Future Fund that works on the west side of Atlanta, and we assist them with grocery delivery to the neighbourhoods on the west side. In fact, the team's going to be there at 11 o'clock after this call, doing food distribution and food packing through the food bank down there. So those are the two main ways we've got involved in it. It's just been really, really well received. And it's also given us something to take to funders as well, who really made it clear that they didn't want to fund things like soccer in this environment. They wanted to address the core needs of communities, and education and food are two of those. So that's enabled us as an organisation to survive so far.
You beat me to the punch on this one, which I was going to ask was, how has like the donation been for your organization, or how has your relationship been with your donors as a result of COVID?
It changed. I mean, it's going to be, it is tough for non-profits, and I think, you know, we'll see how it plays out going forward, but I think it's going to get harder. The big funding source, two of our biggest funding sources are through foundations, donations, so like the Atlanta United Foundation and Laureate Sport for Good and so on. And then earned income around running soccer tournaments and getting people to raise money on our behalf. So really the gathering around tournaments were cancelled. We've already had 2 cancelled that we would have done. So we turned to our donors, and they were very clear that we're repurposing our funding towards the COVID needs of communities. So what are you going to do to match that? And so we retooled, and we got support from the Atlanta United Foundation again. You know, they're a long-term partner for us, and they stepped up. We also got support from a family foundation called the Chestnut Family Foundation that helped support this as well. And then we turned to our network through small donations and told our story to them, and that proved very effective as well.
Okay. And I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things I've been trying to profile is that organizations who are pivoting in a time of COVID. And so on the leadership side on your end, how has that been for you? Has it been an adjustment, or has it just been too much going on right now to really assess what's happened?
No, it's definitely been a pivot for us. I mean, we're in the education and logistics business now, which is completely new to us. But the team's really, really adapted. I mean, we've always tried to build an agile team. My background is from technology, so I sort of have come through the first wave of internet and the second wave of internet companies. So I'm a big proponent of building small businesses that can reiterate and change and pivot quickly. And so we had a team that could do that, and it was great just to see how quickly everyone came together, and we were able to put this online education program together, and then the food programs as well. And we tried things that didn't work. We tried a gardening. One of our program managers on the west side, Sean Irving, tried doing a gardening thing where we were going to actually help families plant their own food and grow it, and but it just wasn't, the environment wasn't good for that. Social distancing and stay at home was still in place, so we didn't try that one. The 2 things we did try on and experimented on have worked so far, so we're now looking to build on them. But the team has really, really stepped up. It's great to see.
Great. And so I just got to ask, and is there something right now that people should know about soccer on the streets that they don't know already?
Yeah, go and take a look at what we are doing now. You know, we're not, I think it's a really interesting story that we are associated with soccer. And I mean, that is what we do. But we're doing a lot of other things at the moment, and they're really, really important. The low income community gets hit far worse with general economic downturns, right, you know, is compared to other economic groups, and that's no different to this COVID situation. So it's, you know, I had a comment. It was a well-meaning. It was a well-meaning comment from a friend a week or so ago who observed he was in Whole Foods shopping, and there was a mother there doing an Instacart. Suppose she was working for Whole Foods to, you know, get groceries and supply them for Instacart. And he's like, she had her 2 children with her. They were like 5 and 6. You know, why were they there? And it's like, well, where else do you think they're going to be
Right.
when she's at work? And that's a big scenario for us. You know, we've got parents who, you know, are working these types of jobs, and what happens to the kids when they're at home? The first homework program I sat in online, and it was, you know, it was a girl at home who was 8 and her 11-year-old brother at home. That was it. You know, they're latchkey kids. And this is a problem. You know, having young youth at home alone is an issue, and it's a risk factor. And so, you know, so we're trying to help around that. The other comment we've got back as well is from one mother was she was single parent family, and just for her, having Coach Justin as a male role model just on video for you know, for her daughter was huge, and the fact that he was a black male as well was huge, and that was what it meant to her. It was like, forget about the learning, you know, just having that positive interaction was really, really big. So you know, everything's on our website now. We just updated it all, so you can go to soccerstreets.org, see what we're up to. We've got a couple of other projects as well that are more fun projects. We have one called Project Snapshot. So we've got a call out there for people to submit pictures around what soccer looks like in our community through COVID. So we want to put that together when this all ends, and, you know, we'll probably make a coffee table book out of it, and help use that to raise money. We got a t-shirt design contest started this week with George Bello, one of the Atlanta United players. So kids are going to design, as part of the homework project this week, design for t-shirts, and he'll judge it, and then we'll make t-shirts and sell them as well.
Okay, cool. Oh, and one last thing. How can people, if they want to donate or volunteer, how could they do that with Soccer in the Streets?
Currently it's hard.
Okay.
I mean, it's yeah, obviously we always need support, financial support, but we do understand times are hard, and, you know, just asking people for money is a tough thing to do, but that will always help. The funny thing we bumped into, actually, which we haven't mentioned yet, was when I was out on the west side a couple of weeks ago. I had some soccer balls in the back of my car, and a little girl came out to get the groceries and saw them and said, "Can I have one?" And so I gave her that ball, and before you knew it, her sister was out, her cousin was out, and I had all these kids around me, and I was like trying to keep back and telling them they should, you know, they should be distancing. But I gave them all the ball. And the transformation just with them in that moment was incredible. The smile on their faces, and I mean, half of them were using them for basketball, but whatever,
Yeah.
you know, doesn't matter. So really the power in the ball is a huge thing, but, you know, we've run out of balls because we now give away balls with all of our program. While we can't take individual ball donations, it's just not logistically possible. If people do know of sort of bulk supplies of balls, you know, 25 or more, please contact us, and we can distribute them. and just tell our story. You know, it's go on our website and tell people what we're doing.
Okay, and just what's the website again for people?
Soccerstreets.org.
Okay, and thank you, Phil, so much for taking the time out today to talk about soccer in the streets. I really love what you guys are doing, and it's just important that people in Atlanta are seeing other people who are trying to make an impact, and people like your organization who's having to pivot due to COVID-19.
Yeah, well, thanks for taking the time to talk as well. It's again, it's all about telling our story and helping these kids. I mean, I think the summer's going to be tough. It's, you know, they're going to be out and about, and that's when the risk factors happen again. So we'll keep everyone updated about what we can do rolling through summer, and hopefully there'll be more opportunities for people to get involved.
All right. Thank you so much again. Thank you so much again, Phil. Thank you so much for Soccer in the Streets and just being involved. If you guys like what you heard, make sure you please subscribe. I am King Williams. You can follow me on all social media channels at I am King Williams. You can also listen to this podcast wherever you heard it from. If you heard on YouTube, please like and comment on the video below. And more importantly, if you also want to keep up with me, make sure you sign up for my newsletter at iamkingwilliams.substack.com. iamkingwilliams.substack.com. Thank you once again, Phil and Soccer in the Streets, for taking the time out to talk to me today.
Thanks, King. Bye.
All right.